Toothless. I could have sworn you had...
With a How to Train Your Dragon live-action movie coming out, most fans are probably wondering what's going on with the next animated film in the franchise. How to Train Your Dragon 4 seems likely to happen. It's just really a matter of when. A lot of people are hoping it's still in the works, but honestly, it should only happen if one key person is directly involved in making it. So let's dive into everything we know about the next movie, shall we? The How to Train Your Dragon franchise has been around for a while now, kicking off back in 2010 with the first movie. Loosely based on Cressida Cowell's 2003 book, it introduced us to Hiccup, a Viking teen who dreams of being a dragon slayer until he forms an unexpected bond with a rare night fury dragon named Toothless. That bond changes everything, setting up a whole trilogy of films that fans absolutely love. If you are looking to rewatch, the first How to Train Your Dragon is streaming on Amazon, Hulu, and the Roku channel, while How to Train Your Dragon 2 is free on Tubi. The Hidden World, the third movie, is available on Hulu, so if you need a refresher, you know where to go. The first movie was a massive hit, pulling in nearly $500 million at the box office with a budget of $165 million. It even scored 2 Oscar nominations. Naturally, DreamWorks Animation wasted no time in greenlighting sequels. How to Train Your Dragon 2 came out in 2014, followed by The Hidden World in 2019. While the third film was meant to wrap up the story, a fourth movie hasn't been completely ruled out, though it's not exactly looking likely either. If How to Train Your Dragon 4 ever happens, there's one thing that absolutely needs to be in place. Dean DeBlois has to be involved. He was a key creative force behind all the 3 movies, co-directing the first one with Chris Sanders and then taking full control of the second and third films as both writer and director. His storytelling and world building are what made the franchise so beloved. Without DeBlois, a fourth movie could feel totally different, and not in a good way. His influence was a huge part of why the original trilogy was so well received. If DreamWorks were to move forward without him, there's a real risk of the quality dropping, which could damage the franchise's strong reputation. That being said, DeBlois himself has previously expressed that he's not interested in making How to Train Your Dragon 4. Back in 2014, he even mentioned in an interview that he had convinced DreamWorks co-founder Jeffrey Katzenberg to let the story end as a trilogy. He hinted at the possibility of spin-offs, but as far as a fourth movie goes, he felt like the story had reached a satisfying conclusion. Of course, minds change over time, so who knows? If DreamWorks is serious about keeping the franchise alive, they might need to look at a different approach. Instead of making How to Train Your Dragon 4, why not explore a spin-off? The original films introduced plenty of characters and expanded on the world in ways that could easily lead to new stories. Surprisingly, despite all the potential, a spin-off hasn't really been given much attention, but it might just be the best way to move forward without messing with the original trilogy's legacy. One of the best opportunities for a spin-off was actually set up all the way back in How to Train Your Dragon 2 with Hiccup's mom, Valka. Played by Cate Blanchett, Valka was revealed to be alive after years of being presumed dead. She had spent the time living with dragons, rescuing them, and learning their ways. The second movie barely scratched the surface of her backstory, which means there's a ton of room to explore her journey in more detail. A Valka spin-off could be a smart move for DreamWorks. It would allow them to expand the How to Train Your Dragon universe without having to revisit Hiccup's story. Plus, with Cate Blanchett already voicing the character, they'd have a major star attached, assuming she'd be up for reprising her role. On top of that, it would be a great chance to put a female lead at the center of the franchise, which could attract new audiences while keeping longtime fans engaged. There's a huge gap in the How to Train Your Dragon timeline that a Valka-focused movie could explore. She was away from her family for 20 years. What exactly was she doing during all that time? Was she completely alone, or did she have allies? A spin-off could introduce new locations, new dragons, and even new villains. It could also bring back familiar characters in unexpected ways, adding more layers to the franchise. At the end of the day, whether DreamWorks chooses to make How to Train Your Dragon 4 or go in the spin-off direction, they need to be careful. The original trilogy is widely considered one of the best animated film series of all time, and anything new needs to live up to that high standard. But if they do it right, especially with DeBlois involved or a strong spin-off idea, it could be an exciting next chapter for the franchise. If DreamWorks ever decides to make How to Train Your Dragon 4, the big question is, where would the story go? The Hidden World wrapped up Hiccup and Toothless' journey in a way that felt like a natural conclusion, with dragons retreating to the hidden world and humans learning to live without them. But that doesn't mean there aren't ways to continue the story while respecting what came before. One possible direction could focus on Hiccup and Astrid's children. At the end of the Hidden World, we saw Hiccup and Astrid as parents, introducing their kids to Toothless and the other dragons. A fourth movie could follow their children as they grow up in a world where dragons are now considered myths, much like before Hiccup first met Toothless. But what if one of their kids stumbles upon the hidden world and reignites the bond between dragons and humans? This storyline would allow for a new generation of dragon riders while keeping Hiccup and Astrid involved as mentors. Another possibility is a conflict that forces dragons and humans to reunite. While the hidden world ended with peace, there's always the chance that some external threat, whether human or another creature, could endanger both worlds. If a villain were to discover the hidden world and seek to exploit dragons, Hiccup and Toothless could be forced out of retirement to protect their old friends. This would create a compelling reason for them to reunite and would give audiences the emotional payoff of seeing them work together again. Alternatively, the movie could explore what life has been like for Toothless and the Light Fury in the hidden world. While the previous films focused on Hiccup's journey, How to Train Your Dragon 4 could shift perspectives and show more from the dragon's point of view. Maybe a new challenge emerges within the hidden world, and Toothless is forced to take on a leadership role among his kind. This could give the audience a deeper look into dragon society, something that has only been briefly touched upon in the films. Another approach could involve a time jump far into the future, where dragons have either returned or are being rediscovered. This could reintroduce the debate about whether humans and dragons can coexist and explore themes of history repeating itself. With a fresh cast of characters and new stakes, the franchise could expand beyond Hiccup's immediate story while still honoring his legacy. I think that if How to Train Your Dragon 4 ever happens, it would need to justify its existence with a meaningful story. The trilogy ended beautifully, so any continuation would have to feel organic and necessary rather than just an attempt to extend the franchise. But with the rich lore of this world, there's always room for more adventures if done right. And that's all we've got on How to Train Your Dragon 4. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.